Now, dinosaurs are mentioned in the Bible. Imagine that. They lived when man lived. And I know that's very controversial with the, what do you call them? Evolutionists and Darwinists and the foolsinists, whatever you want to call them. But yes, the behemoth and the Leviathan. The book says, upon the earth there's not his like. Intrepid he was made. All, however lofty, fear him. He is king over all proud beasts. The dinosaur's the king, not a lion, not Mufasa of Lion King. No. The king was this huge, powerful, dangerous dinosaur. The book says, once again, once you but lay a hand upon him, no need to recall any other conflict. Yeah, because you'll be dead. And those gigantic dinosaur creatures, they were such great marvels of engineering. The way they were built, the way they moved, amazing. And of course, there's plenty of evidence that they existed with all those dinosaur fossil graveyards all over the world. Also, all those documented proof, all that stuff that we have, documented proof. Yeah, I said that right. All that documented proof in our American caveman movies of old. Oh, yeah. Featuring none other than Ringo Starr, Barbara Bach, and Raquel Welch. Remember her? Yeah. And they were very realistic documentaries, as I recall. Correct? Right? Although in the midst of such a primitive, barbaric society, I don't know how Bach and Welsh managed to shave their armpits and legs so eloquently. How'd that happen? Back then, according to my calculations, they should have had a 3 to 4 inch long padding of dense hair. They didn't have no Relco back then. In fact, most women have that little mustache going on, some more than others. Back in ancient times, women would have had a huge Geraldo Rivera mustache. Yeah, don't you think? Growing year after year. Women with that big stash. You remember Geraldo, right? He still hangs around on Fox every now and then. He used to have a talk show. So the behemoth and Leviathan was absolutely mentioned in Job, the book of Job, where he, for the most part, was complaining and whining about poor old me, as we all do from time to time. Poor old me, putting God on the witness stand once again, asking why this and why that, to the point it sounded as though he was giving up on life. Job was, the book says. Why did I not perish, come forth from the womb, and expire? The guy was wishing he was never born. To the point of suicide, it sounds. As he couldn't accept his hardships in his life. Giving up hope and faith in God. And once that happens, we spiral downward. Once you give up your last grip on God, you got major problems on the horizon. So we don't want to do that. So Job, he went from a wise, wealthy, happy man to a panicky, desperate, neurotic man. It sounds like a psychiatrist would have a field day with him. Set up, maybe 2 or 3 appointments a week for 5 to 8 years. That psychiatrist would pay off that new yacht and third house in no time. So God heard all the complaining by Job, as he is omnipotent, omniscient, all those omni words. And he heard Job complaining. And he realized, hey, somebody needs to be put in their place. Job was way over his head here, questioning God Almighty. And it's not a good thing to do. So God, of course, responded. The book says, gird up your loins. Gird up your loins. Have you ever heard that expression? Gird up your loins basically means put on your big boy pants. Gird up your loins now, like a man. I will question you, and you tell me the answer. That's what he was telling Job. And I'm thinking Job is saying to himself by now, uh-oh, I'm in trouble now. I didn't know God was listening. I was just venting. Man, I'm about to get schooled, no doubt. Shaking in his boots at this point. And then God proceeded to ask Job a bunch of questions about the origins of the universe, earth, and nature. How did it all get there? Who created it into this incredible synchronized perfection? God asked him about the oceans, the winds, the rising and setting sun like clockwork, the planets, and all the animals like bears, lions, and fish. God asked Job, hey, who implanted their marvelous instinct? Did you? Was it you? Well, if so, then you have the right to question me. Otherwise, you need to step down. Yeah, you do. And close that big yap of yours. It's like, hey, who do you think you are? That was a question I got growing up on my dad from time to time. I would act up or do something out of line, and he would ask me, who do you think you are? And, of course, I said to myself, back then, I said, well, I think I'm the man. That's what I think. Not to him, but to myself. And then as you get older, when you get that question, who do you think you are? Then I later said, well, I think I'm the fool. You realize the truth. It can't be denied. So you learn. Sometimes the hard way, but you learn. So the heavens definitely declare the glory of God. And the heavens, I guess there's three. Heaven, let's see. One is the atmosphere heaven that the birds fly in. The second heaven is the space of planets and meteorites and anything else that's muddled up there. And then the third heaven is where God resides. So the heavens, including all the animals and birds and creatures and insects, declare the glory of God. It's incredible. The instincts alone, where do they come from? Instincts. It's just amazing. Like birds, they migrate thousands of miles. The salmon, swimming long distances upstream against waterfalls to go back where they were born to spawn, to reproduce, risking their lives as hungry grizzly bears await them along the way, swiping them out of the water or snatching them in the air. Would you do that? Would you risk all that to reproduce, to mate with your wife? I don't know about that. Faced with all that, I think it would be time for the husband to turn the tables and say, sorry, dear, I have a headache. But could you imagine 3 huge black bears lurking outside your bedroom door late at night? The kids are gone. The music is on. After a long, hot shower, you make your way to your wife. And to your chagrin, you notice 3 bears licking their chops, waiting for you to take one misstep so they can eat you. Not your wife, just you. So would you, so to speak, fight against the current for a lovely night with your wife with that type of risk going on? Well, let's just say, of course we would. Yeah, sure. Just like the salmon. In fact, just call me Sam. Sam the salmon from now on. My wife is worth that kind of risk. If I get a leg bit off in the process, so what? I have another one. It's all well worth it. At least keep telling yourself that. So afterwards in this story in the book of Job, God asked Job, the book says, will we have arguing with the Almighty by the critic? So Job realizes, Job, he came to his senses and quickly backed off, realizing that he had no right to question God's majesty. He repented and asked for forgiveness, like we all hopefully eventually do. And he made sure that that it never happened again. So let's all realize that God has his reasons. Let's all maintain belief and trust in God always, no matter what. That's the key. You can't buckle and falter when times get rough, as they will for all of us. There's no getting around it. You know, we'd like a big party going on 24/7 all our lives and smiling, and we smile plenty of times in our lives. A lot of good things to do, a lot of good happenings. But what do you do when you don't have those good happenings? That's where God comes in. Oh, yeah, sure he does. Jesus. You got to learn about that guy. Now, God went on to talk to Job about those two creatures once again, those two dinosaurs in the book of Job. They were colossal beasts, huge. As the fossils would indicate, they're like 120 foot long, 76 tons, with a 50-foot tail. The book says, see, besides you, I make behemoth that feeds on grass like an ox. Behold, the strength in his loins, this vigor in the sinews of his belly. Now, notice he says, I made behemoth besides you, right beside you, essentially. This nonsense of dinosaurs, millions and billions of years. How do they know? Were they there? Now, there were dinosaurs in man's time in the beginning. What, maybe 5,000, 6,000 years ago? Yeah, according to the Bible's calculations, and since you believe the Bible, I believe it. Now, these behemoths, these dinosaurs of the time, displaying their sheer power and confidence, afraid of nothing. Quite a contrast to our human frailties, our human snivelings. Now, something the behemoth was a hippopotamus. I don't understand that. No way. It wasn't a hippo described in Job. No, the book says he carries his tail like a cedar, and sinews of his thighs are like cables. And again, the sinews are like tendons and ligaments. And I picture them being big, thick bridge cables. And the tail size, the size of a cedar tree. That's a giant tree. Now, hippos, they have small little tails, right? It looks like a 10-year-old boy's sock hanging off that big butt of theirs. That's all it is. The hippo's tail. It's like a string of spaghetti.